I've been more into lawsuits than Saul Goodman recently. I've become such a huge lawsuit enthusiast over the last, 6 or so months. Not me, issuing lawsuits, I've still never done that. Though, with all the stories I've read, that could be a very interesting branch of content, just frivolously filing lawsuits to see how it goes, I guess. Because apparently no one ever gets punished for doing that. Best example is the classic, silly Billy Mitchell, the video game player of the century who files a new lawsuit anytime someone makes a joke about him being a cheater. And I'm not using the word allegedly, Billy. You are a scumbag cheater, and I hope you lose all of your ongoing lawsuits, brother. But anyway, enough bravado here and lat spreading on Billy Mitchell, celebrating every single L that he keeps taking, and will most likely continue to keep taking. Let's focus on what I want to talk about. I have really enjoyed diving into the most outrageous, most unhinged lawsuits imaginable. And last night, I found the magnum opus. This is the craziest lawsuit I've ever even been made aware of. There was a lawsuit I covered a couple years ago where there was a Twitch viewer who was suing Twitch because they were showing him female streamers and he couldn't stop jerking off, so he was suing for millions of dollars worth of damages, claiming it's immoral that Twitch would have these, female streamers doing suggestive things and it forces him to masturbate or whatever. And that, to me, for a while, was probably one of the most entertainingly awful lawsuits I'd read about. But what I read last night actually beats it. A man in Australia filed a lawsuit against a hospital for $1 billion Australian dollars, which converts to about 643 million freedom bucks. And the reason he was suing this hospital is because he watched his wife give birth. He believed that what he had witnessed there was basically a war crime, like a violation of his human rights and a complete failure on that hospital's duty of care to him to make sure that he didn't see that. He was upset because the hospital not only allowed him to watch his wife's birth via C-section, but also encouraged it. Which to me doesn't sound like anything weird from the hospital. I mean, they call it the miracle of childbirth for a reason. Plus, if he wasn't allowed to watch it, I feel like that would be a huge problem. Being denied access to your wife during the most important moment of your relationship, I imagine would actually be grounds for a lawsuit. Most people, I would imagine, would want to be there with their partner to comfort and be able to take part in the gift of life, I guess. But this guy believed that they should have shielded his eyes and plugged his ears or something, and the fact that they didn't caused him psychotic illness. And he believes he's entitled to at least $1 billion Australian dollars in damages. Did you hear about the man suing a hospital for $642 million after watching his wife's C-section and said it gave him a psychotic illness? You've got my attention. You undersold this. He's actually suing the hospital for $643 million. Man tries to sue a hospital for $643 million after he was encouraged to watch his wife's C-section. A man in Australia accused a hospital in Melbourne of causing him to develop a psychotic illness after he watched his wife undergo a cesarean section. Interesting. 643 million clams. Anil Coppola tried to sue the Royal Women's Hospital for letting him watch his wife's birth via C-section in 2018. He unsuccessfully sought 1 billion Australian dollars, which is 643 million. A judgment on the lawsuit filed in the Supreme Court of Victoria in Melbourne last week shows. How could this have not worked? What went wrong? Mr. Coppola's wife that day had a healthy baby delivered by cesarean section. Mr. Coppola alleges that he was encouraged or permitted to observe the delivery, that in the course of doing so he saw his wife's internal organs and blood, and that the experience caused the onset of a psychotic illness. He says the hospital breached the duty of care it owed to him and is liable to pay him damages. The hospital admits that it owed to him a duty of care, but denied that it breached it and does not accept that he suffered any injury. In his amended statement of the claim on October 22nd, Mr. Coppola, who is self-represented, that sounds about right. That tracks. Assessed his damages for psychological injury at $1 billion. Isn't this so cringe? The human body is so cringe that C-sections are pretty common because we're not developed enough, we haven't evolved enough to make birthing efficient. So oftentimes they have to deliver the baby through the stomach. Evolution just is... It's got to catch up. We've got to redefine the meta. Birthing should be like the most efficient thing humans are good at. It's like the whole purpose of being an organism. To reproduce. I was just talking to my mom about that. That is an interesting conversation to have with your mom, but yeah, it is a fascinating anomaly why we haven't evolved to be better at it. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, 32.1% of all baby deliveries in the U.S. in 2021 were cesarean section. Wow. Coppola filed the lawsuit several years after the operation, saying it caused the onset of a psychotic illness that led to a breakdown of his marriage. Yeah, that was the reason. The reason me and my wife broke up is because I had to watch her get a C-section and I've never been the same. I couldn't look at her the same way. She grossed me out. It was so fucking yucky. I hated her for it. And I hated the hospital for making me see her like that. I've seen her inside and out. Yeah, stared into the abyss. Coppola chose to represent himself in court where Justice James Gorton dismissed the suit and deemed the claim an abuse of process. I would agree with that. Did he give him like a big speech like, listen, goofball, this is ridiculous. Go home. Get out of my court. If men could birth, would you rather birth an NFL football out of your brown eye or a U.S. quarter out of your one eye? What a philosophical inquiry. I don't know. If I could, if I had to give birth right now and I got to choose, I'd probably try and do it like Majin Buu. So I'd vomit up the creature. I'd really rather not tear my whole ass out or anything like that. That's Piccolo. No, Majin Buu did that too, right? When he vomited out into Super Buu? Or am I misremembering? The trial proceedings included a medical examination of Coppola, with the panel concluding the degree of psychiatric impairment did not satisfy the threshold level, according to the judgment. Lawsuits that are seeking damage for non-economic losses, such as this one, require that an injury is significant, the judgment said. With regards to the medical panel's conclusion, Coppola said he disagreed with it, though the judgment said he was unable to agitate the correctness of it. I can't believe he didn't get $1 billion out of this, because he watched his wife's C-section, and then they got a divorce 3 years later. I want to see if this was televised. I'd love to see how he defended himself. Unfortunately, no footage exists of how this panned out, but man, I would really like to hear some of his arguments. No, listen, Your Honor, you don't understand. A baby came out from her tummy. I can't sleep anymore. I can't even look at her anymore. It's why our marriage fell apart, damn it. It's the hospital's fault for letting me see such a thing. I also love the confidence and delusion to ask for $1 billion from this. Our marriage was so good, Your Honor, you don't understand. It was worth at least $1 billion in order to make up for all of this hardship. I can't believe this. How could they be so cruel to let me see my child being born? No, damn you. Now, obviously, I think this is one of those cases where someone knows that it's ridiculous, but they try anyway and hope to settle out of court. So they go for this alarmingly huge number and then try and negotiate behind closed doors to just squash it. But with something this outlandish, that was never even in the cards. This is such a bogus baloney claim that it never even made it anywhere and never stood a chance either. I think there is a 0% chance that this guy is permanently scarred for life after watching his wife give birth. I understand C-sections are a little scary. I know what they are. Now, granted, I've never seen one in person, so maybe it's different in the Thunderdome. Maybe I'd see it and also just have a full-blown breakdown, my universe crumbles around me, and it fucks me up for life. But even in that case, I still don't think I'd ever win a case for $1 billion because of that. I think that's a hard sell right there. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this one a little bit because this one had me giggling. This is probably this has to be among the largest asks for a lawsuit based on legitimately nothing. So yeah, just wanted to talk about this a bit. That's it. So yeah. Doesn't matter if you've been living under a rock, I'm sure even Patrick Starr's gotten this news by now. PayPal Honey, a wildly successful browser extension used by millions, turned out to be a big scam, allegedly. Except it's not alleged, it is factually a scam, in my opinion. I think Honey is more of a scam than the shake weight. This shit is foul. And thanks to a multi-year investigation conducted by a YouTuber named Megalag, it has blown the lid wide open on this operation from Honey. And just like my bubble guts after I make the mistake of eating a hot dog at a hockey game, it's bad. So bad, in fact, that it has now led to a class action lawsuit being filed against Honey. Another YouTuber named Legal Eagle just posted this video announcing this class action lawsuit they're filing against them. Now, when you hear the term YouTuber, most of you picture a bumbling imbecile like me. But contrary to popular belief, not every content creator is overdosing on stupid juice. Legal Eagle is a real attorney, not some phony baloney, horse hockey, a title he gave himself from Roblox or anything. And he made this video going over the motivation behind this class action lawsuit, believing that PayPal Honey has caused substantial financial damages to a substantial number of people. Now, this isn't his first rodeo announcing a lawsuit. I believe he's made 2 other videos talking about something that he's suing. This one obviously comes pretty early into the investigation that Megalag has conducted. Keep in mind, that was part 1 of a 3-part series that Megalag is releasing on his multi-year investigation of Honey. And part 1 already had enough foul play to lead to a class action lawsuit. I don't even know how much worse it could get with this rabbit hole. Like, part 2 might just prove PayPal Honey was trying to cast the infinite Tsukiyomi and trap everyone on Earth into a genjutsu where we just keep fucking giving them affiliate commissions or something. Like, I do not know what else could possibly come out from Honey. Lord help us, part 3 from the investigation might just conclude and prove that PayPal Honey was trying to quantumly inject microchips into our brains or something. It really is, like, it's fascinating just how bad this company is. That one part of a 3-part investigation was enough to lead to a class action lawsuit against them. And it's not a frivolous lawsuit either. There's not really any question of whether or not Honey was engaging in taking affiliate commissions. They openly confirmed with Megalag that, like, they acknowledge that, yes, we will sometimes be the last click and get that affiliate commission. They openly say that. So that's not even what's called into question. It's more so now, is it fully illegal? And in my moron eyes, like my idiot vision, I think it has to be, right? Like, I talked about it a bit on stream last night. I'll show you some clips there. But I think it is the textbook definition of cookie stuffing, which does have a legal precedent set that it's wire fraud. Now, I think there's been a little confusion on exactly how big of a scam this is, so I'm going to try and break it down into even simpler terms. A lot of people are under the impression that the only people affected are those that promoted Honey. Like, who cares about influencers that lost money, through commissions and stuff? That's not the actual scope of it. Even setting aside the blatant false advertising where Honey claims it gets you the best coupons available, which is proven to be untrue. In fact, they hide the best coupons from you because they work with the companies directly to give you what coupons they want you to have access to. So they'll give you like a 5% coupon, even though you could find a 20% one on your own. Honey tells you that doesn't exist. There's only this 5%. Setting that aside, which directly hurts the people that use Honey, setting that aside, the affiliate theft, what I believe to be cookie stuffing, it comes from people no matter what their familiarity is with Honey. So let's say your grandmother, this is the example I've been giving on stream to try and help explain it. Let's say your grandmother on Facebook, she has an affiliate link to baking supplies, Tupperware. She has an affiliate link for Tupperware, and she shares that on her Facebook page. And you, being the good grandson you are, want to support her and give her a little commission, and you could use the Tupperware. So you click her affiliate link, you go to the Tupperware, as you're checking out, Honey pops up and says, do you want to check for coupons? And you click, sure, I might as well. So you click that, it finds no coupons, you close it. And then you finish your checkout. Well, what happened is, when you click that from Honey, Honey took the affiliate commission. So your grandmother got nothing, and she'll never even know you clicked that affiliate link. Honey got the whole thing. Because Honey is a brand partner of that Tupperware, not the grandmother with the affiliate link. Thus, when Honey poached the affiliate commission, they got all of the money, not your grandmother, even though it was your grandmother's link that brought the sale to the Tupperware. But that company will never know that it was the grandmother's link that did it. They will just see that it was Honey that got the last click. Thus, they have to pay out the commission to Honey. That's what's going on. Your grandmother had never heard of Honey. She never promoted Honey, but you had it because maybe your favorite YouTuber talked about it, or maybe you just happen to see all the advertisements elsewhere for it. That's the actual spaghetti and meatballs of it. It's not just people that promoted the Honey, getting butt fucked or anything. It's anyone that has Honey and then tries to click an affiliate link. Honey will take it, even if that affiliate link came from someone that knows nothing about Honey. And another good thing that was pointed out in Megalag's video, even when Honey provides no value at all, where you're in checkout and Honey says, hey, just popping up to let you know, didn't find anything. Like, even if you don't click anything, it just pops up and says, hey, I'm here, I got nothing for you. And you click, to exit out, you click got it to get rid of it. You clicking got it, even though it came up and said, hey, we didn't find anything, we're not even trying to find it, there's nothing here for us, even though it did actually nothing, you just clicking got it will take the affiliate commission. And the person who had the affiliate link will never know that that even happened. Another big question is, well, how did people not know they were missing out on money? How did they not know they weren't getting paid? That's how, because you never even knew it was happening, because someone just having Honey took the whole commission, so you never saw any of it. I think for a lot of people there was a misunderstanding that people were getting paid by Honey, and they didn't understand how people didn't recognize they were just missing payments from Honey. Like, how could you possibly ignore that? No, that's not the case. Anyone that had Honey installed and engaged in clicking an affiliate link, that commission never made it to whoever the affiliate was. Honey would take it. So the actual affiliate would never even know that it happened, which is why it was impossible to ever even find out. That's what made it so slippery and so sneaky. And that's also why it's nearly impossible to know just how much money was lost this way, and why it's likely into the deep millions upon millions of dollars. Which is why I think this class action lawsuit could be huge. Of course, I'm not a lawyer, I didn't pass the bar, I don't know for sure, but it seems like there is so much money that was likely lost from this because of PayPal Honey stealing the affiliate commissions. Now, the next question a lot of people ask is, did PayPal know? PayPal purchased Honey for $4 billion. You bet your sweet bippy they knew. I've been flip-flopping on this back and forth, but for a $4 billion purchase, I think they would have audited the shit out of that company. I think they would have absolutely known that this was like their bread and butter. Because how else are they making money? Like, really, how else are they making money when you really stop to think about it? Markiplier pinned the tail on the donkey. His gut was absolutely right. Like, PayPal would have had to have known that when they purchased this company. I think it's now just a matter of, did PayPal know that it might be illegal? Did they knowingly spend $4 billion on illegal business practices, which would be mind-boggling if that is the case, if the answer is yes to that question. So I'm very interested to see where this class action goes. But anyway, I want to show you some of the clips from the stream because we dove into their terms of service. Honey actually is so fucking scummy that they snuck some shit into their terms of service, which of course nobody's reading. Everyone knows no one reads the terms of service. Even the law knows no one is actually sitting through and reading through every single fucking term of service for the things they sign up for. But Honey knew that and snuck some shit in there to try and cover their own ass. Like I said after the initial part 1 of the investigation, this is going to be a huge class action. There is unironically millions of dollars that were probably lost along the way for a lot of different people. So I'm very curious to see just how big it gets. I think it's almost billions of dollars lost. I've got to stop the music for that. Okay, it's going to be a lot of money, but billions? Is Honey even worth billions? PayPal paid $4 billion for it. I got to stop the music for this. Did you know Honey's terms of service make it so you can't sue them with a class action? I'm going to look that up myself right now. I don't believe you. But no one ever reads the terms of service. But I imagine Legal Eagle would have before the class action. Let's see. Let's look at the Join Honey terms of use. Though I don't think you... Let's just assume it's there for a second. Does that protect you? Would that even actually protect you? I don't think so. Wasn't there a ruling not too long ago that said, like, no one reads the terms of service, so you really can't put in legally binding shit like that? I vaguely recall that being a actual court ruling. This agreement contains 1. An arbitration provision, 2. A waiver of rights to bring a class action lawsuit against us, and 3. A release by you of claims for damage against us that may arise out of your use of the service to the greatest extent permitted by applicable law. By using the service, you agree to these provisions. Their lawyers are good. They've got the Sharingan out. How could they have seen the potential class action coming? They stopped us before we even started. I wonder how far by applicable law goes. There's no way that's going to actually protect them. You can't just say, like, you can't sue us and then do blatantly illegal shit. That's not how that works. Arbitration clause and class action waiver. Important. Please review as this affects your legal rights. In caps lock. Oh man, yeah. This seems like panic. Arbitration. You agree that all disputes between you and us, whether or not such dispute involves a third party with regard to your relationship with us, including without limitation dispute related to this agreement, your use of the service and or rights of privacy and or publicity, will be resolved by binding individual arbitration under the American Arbitration Association's rules for arbitration of consumer-related disputes, and you and we hereby expressly waive trial by jury. Why would you want that? I'm sure the jury would side with you guys. I don't know why it's screaming at me, though. Oh, wait. Here comes a threat of their own. Provided, however, that to the extent that you may have... Provided, however, that to the extent that you have in any manner violated or threatened to violate our intellectual property rights, we may seek injunctive or other appropriate relief in any state or federal court in the state of California. Discovery and rights to appeal in arbitration are generally more limited than in a lawsuit, and other rights that you and we would have in court may not be available in arbitration. Now they're tossing their big meat around. That's interesting. I've heard that too. Someone in Legal Eagle's comments brought up that what Honey did could be considered cookie stuffing, which is a form of wire fraud, and that there's legal precedent for it. I've heard that a couple times. I might as well look at it before hopping onto Rivals to start my Grandmaster climb. So cookie stuffing is legitimately a real term. It is a real thing that they have cracked down on. Deceptive tactic in affiliate marketing. It is considered fraudulent. But what is the legal precedent? Because I think it is the textbook definition of cookie stuffing what Honey was doing. So it's been considered a form of wire fraud, and in 2006, eBay collaborated with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in a sting operation targeting top affiliate marketers. So it looks like in 2006 there was a big case with it. Sean Hogan, eBay's largest affiliate marketer, was found to have engaged in cookie stuffing. His strategy involved modifying his website to load resources from eBay servers, thereby setting affiliate cookies on users' browsers. The technique falsely attributed subsequent eBay purchases to Hogan's site. Despite Hogan making over $28 million through eBay's affiliate commissions, it was determined that Hogan's activities did not contribute any substantial revenue to eBay. In the subsequent legal proceedings, Hogan pleaded guilty to single wire fraud charge, leading to a 5-month federal prison sentence and a $25,000 fine. Okay, he got off pretty easy. There's another case as well. Also, eBay affiliate marketing, Brian Dunning. Similar tactics with cookie stuffing during 2006 to 2007. So there is a legal precedent set. They don't like it, but it's not harshly punished either. How interesting. Like I said, this should be a slam dunk case. I really think it should be pretty open and shut. They have a ton of money though, so it'll probably get hairy. You should go to law school, you'd be good at it. Brother, I'm a fucking moron. Why would you think I'd be good at that? Google is being sued for $2.5 decillion. That is probably a number you didn't even think existed. That's more than a gazillion dollars. That's more than a more billion dollars. This is an unfathomable number they are being sued for by Russia. To help put it in perspective, here's Decillion compared to others that you've heard before, such as 1,000, million, billion, or even trillion. And you can see trillion's not even halfway there. It doesn't even make a dent. It's estimated that the entire global GDP is 100 trillion, which is like 0.0000001% of what Google is being sued for by Russia. To put it in even more simple terms, 2.5 decillion is almost as many pounds as your mother weighs. It is crazy what they are trying to achieve with this lawsuit here. Shooting for the stars doesn't even cover it. You couldn't sell the Earth for $2.5 decillion to aliens. It's not even worth that much. If you took every dollar, every form of currency ever made throughout the history of our species, it wouldn't even come close to 1 decillion. I cannot stress enough just how absurd this number is. Like, Dr. Evil wouldn't even go for this. This is so far into the realm of lunacy that I don't think there's a single made-up villain who would even try this. At this point, it'd be like a fucking Phineas and Ferb character suing for infinity money. The lawsuit is over YouTube banning Russian media networks. Like, they banned a ton of Russian accounts and accounts associated with, like, the Kremlin and all of that. And the fine arises from Google's failure to comply with previous court orders mandating the reinstatement of these Russian media accounts on YouTube. The court warned Google that non-compliance would lead to compounding fines with no ceiling on the amount, starting at 100,000 rubles daily, and the fines doubling every week until the channels are restored. This is what it feels like to play Magic the Gathering with someone doing doubling season token shenanigans. Like, this is just fucking stupid. The fines doubling every week? It's like a RuneScape scam. What the fuck? What in tarnation? So, fundamentally, YouTube had banned a lot of Russian media accounts and accounts associated with the Kremlin and all of that. And Google has repeatedly cited sanctions compliance as the justification for suspending content from the channels, including high-profile networks like Sargrad TV and RIA Fan. They argued that the media entities involved were under U.S. sanctions imposed in response to Russia's geopolitical actions since 2014. So fundamentally, Google is saying, hey, we had to do this because of these issues and these sanctions. Then in 2022, following the invasion of Ukraine, the subsidiary of Google that was operating in the region declared bankruptcy, and Moscow had seized more than 100 million from the entity. According to The Telegraph, Google said Russia handed the assets to sanctioned TV channels including Sargrad, and that they seized more than 100 million of Google Russia's assets, even though the amount purportedly due under the judgment at the time was less than 12.5 million. So this has just been a back and forth butt fucking for quite some time now between Russia and Google. Now, Google in its latest earnings statement said, "We do not believe these ongoing legal matters will have a material adverse effect." To me, that sounds like they're saying, there's a lot of words here and we're not reading them. They're just going to ignore it. They're not even going to play ball with it for even a second. They're not entertaining the idea of a $2.5 decillion fine. They're just plugging their ears to it. Google has almost entirely ceased operations in Russia already. Like, they've almost fully pulled out from what I can tell. So it seems like they're just going to pretend that, you know, the Tooth Fairy's not real here and just not think about it. So this has been an ongoing battle here between Russia and Google, and this is just the most recent development in the anime. I don't think there's a single world where anyone actually looks at that number and takes it seriously. 2.5 decillion is comically large. There's not even that much sand on the planet. There are 7.5 sextillion grains of sand, and that doesn't even make a dent into 1 decillion. There is nothing on this planet that exists in that quantity, except maybe atoms. I think atoms is like 10 to the power of 50. Now, I can't imagine they're actually stupid enough to think that Google is somehow going to poop this shit out, 2.5 decillion anythings at all. That's impossible. I think this is just like a desperate Hail Mary to get some kind of money from it, like some kind of big fine from all of this. So they're just letting this number be as outrageous as possible. And they are trying to enforce these fines in other regions like South Africa, where they're trying to kind of come at Google from multiple angles, and then Google has been, in response, filing lawsuits to keep everything like localized to Russia. So it's been pretty messy. It has definitely been an interesting journey trying to get caught up on the lore of Google versus Russia. And I just had to dive in with both nuts here because 2.5 decillion. I had never even heard of the word decillion before. I thought that was just a made-up term. And it's not. It's so crazy. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit. Of course, I'm just a clueless Neanderthal, so I have no idea if this lawsuit has any real meat behind it, if it holds water at all. I didn't pass the bar, I'm not a lawyer. But from my uneducated perspective, it just sounds so fucking stupid. To be coming at Google for this amount of money over YouTube accounts being banned, I think is ridiculous. It's not like those YouTube accounts were going to generate anywhere near that level of money. Realistically, all of the YouTube accounts put together probably wouldn't have generated anything even close to $100 million, even if they were operational for 100 years. Like, I just don't understand where this number's even coming from. Like, I understand it's like the compounding fines where it doubles every week, but it's just made up, pulled out of their ass arbitrary nonsense. Like, can any YouTuber do that? Like, oh, my YouTube account was unjustly terminated. Google owes me $1,000 per day that it stays down and it's going to double every week. Well, based on what? Why? That's just a classic because I said so moment right there. I just don't see where they're getting this from. Like, why would it be doubling every week? Who made that rule? What referee came in there and threw the flag on the play saying that it needs to be doubled every week that they don't comply? Like, it just doesn't make sense. Those accounts were never going to generate anywhere near that level of money for a daily fine that would double every week. That's just, that would never happen. So how the fuck can they possibly expect Google or any like reasonable judge to look at that and be like, oh no, that sounds about right? Again, I'm pretty sure it's just to be like intimidating and scary to settle for some kind of payment out of court, perhaps. But to me, this just doesn't seem to be like a lawsuit with a ton of punch behind it. Like, it really just doesn't seem like they have the strongest case to be coming at them for this amount of money. Now, it's worth mentioning, just like the end of a Marvel movie, it will return. This ticking time bomb hasn't stopped. It's still going, and it is still actively doubling. So it's 2.5 decillion now, but this might be the cheapest it'll ever be, because in a month from now, a year from now, we may be looking at new numbers that are going to need to be invented to figure out how much Russia is trying to hit Google for. Anyway, though, I just had to talk about it a little bit because it was so crazy, and I was diving into it pretty deep this afternoon. That's really about it. So, yeah. There are a handful of YouTubers that are currently being sued for $1 billion in a class action lawsuit right now due to them promoting FTX. I don't need to read you the bedtime story of the FTX collapse and disaster. In a very quick and dirty nutshell, it was a very, very large cryptocurrency exchange. You may have even seen the commercial with Larry David where it was, don't be like Larry, crypto's coming and you don't want to miss it, so hop on board, choo-choo, this shit's going right to the moon, that kind of thing. It was this big hype train that seemed to have no end until it ended. The whole thing went tits up, completely collapsed, and was worth less than the gum stuck under your school desk. It was revealed to be fundamentally just a giant scam, and the person behind it, Sam Bankman-Fried, this weaselly goblin homunculus, was basically just a big fraudster, the puppet master behind this whole thing. And so the train derailed, and instead of spilling vinyl chloride, it spilt dust, because there was no money in there at all. So many people lost so much, it was a complete catastrophe, and since the days of its crumbling, a lot has happened. Not just with the people on the inside like Sam Bankman-Fried, but even the people who were loosely connected to it, like brand ambassadors, for example. They've already put Tom Brady, for instance, in the crosshairs. Tom Brady was a big FTX shill, as were quite a few other celebrities, but one of them I'd like to make special note of is Shaq. According to numerous sources, Shaq is currently trying to be issued a lawsuit for his involvement with FTX, but is hiding from them in his own home. So it's just almost kind of comical to think about Shaq hiding from the FTX lawsuit, like real Looney Tunes style, like he's, crouching behind his bar in his home or something while the guy's trying to deliver paperwork to him, but he can't find him, like a mission out of fucking Splinter Cell or something. It's a wild situation. A ton of A-list celebrities are being sued because of all of this, and now it extends to more than just the A-list Hollywood celebrities and sports stars. It's extending to the YouTubers as well. Which brings us to today's topic. There is a handful of YouTubers who are getting slapped with a $1 billion lawsuit for their involvement in the promotion of FTX. 1 billion clams. 1 billion sweet, precious doubloons are at stake now for these YouTubers. And Coffeezilla just posted a video going over all of it in great detail, so I'll put a link to that in the description. I just want to kind of give you the nitty-gritty of it and kind of get into what's going on and really what it means. Now, you might have had a little twinkle in your eye when you noticed a few of those names were familiar to you, and that's totally natural because these are huge channels on YouTube. They have millions of subscribers, and all of them are financial channels. Their content is always centered around big schmeckles. The topics are money, making money, advice, following trends, crypto, the whole kit and caboodle. And speaking of recognizing names on the list, I don't know if you caught it, but we actually have a cameo from a supervillain we may have seen in the past. BitBoy Crypto, Ben. Ben is named in this lawsuit. BitBoy Crypto is someone I've made 2 videos on now. The first was when he sued a YouTuber who was making jokes about him, and the second time was when he called a completely random woman a child molester because the woman was calling him out on promoting dog shit crypto. So, I'm not the biggest fan of BitBoy Crypto. So seeing his name in there kind of gave me little butterflies in my tummy. I had a little smile like, oh wow, how the tables have turned, because usually BitBoy Crypto is the one administering these lawsuits, which is a joke Coffeezilla also made in his video, because it's just an easy dunk. BitBoy Crypto is very loosey-goosey with frivolous lawsuits, and now he's being named in a big lawsuit. It's poetic to a certain extent. But I'm going to have to go to bat for him, because BitBoy Crypto, as pointed out by Coffeezilla, was actually one of the very few financial channels who started calling out FTX before they even collapsed. I know, I couldn't believe it when I heard that either. I didn't think I was even in reality anymore. I thought I got trapped in a Naruto genjutsu. The odds of BitBoy Crypto offering good advice are incalculably low. It's almost impossible. It's like almost as impossible as fucking Netflix's Big Mouth telling a good joke. BitBoy Crypto's entire career is built upon offering the worst crypto investment advice into these absolute dogshit moonshot coins that almost always lose his audience money. And yet, in this specific case, he fucking nailed it. He got it right. According to Coffeezilla and his research, Ben had actually made a handful of videos letting people know that they need to get out of FTX immediately. That it's toxic, it's bad, and shit's not looking good, it's evil, this and that. And he was absolutely right. I mean, even a broken clock is right twice a day, as they say. And Ben absolutely hit the nail on the head. He pinned the tail right on that donkey. He was telling people like a month before the collapse even happened that they need to pull out now. And still, he gets named in the lawsuit here. As you can imagine, a lawsuit like this is a reputational stain for all of these YouTubers because people look to them for financial advice. And now their credibility has been fucking slammed. It's been slapped by this because they were shilling a fucking scam, basically, that lost a ton of people money. The big issue is they weren't just talking about FTX positively because they wanted to talk about FTX organically. A lot of them were being sponsored to talk about FTX and promote it. In fact, some of them even had a podcast that was sponsored by FTX. It's now been deleted, of course. They buried that as far into the soil as they could. But they were being paid to shill FTX, which, of course, gave FTX access to even more victims. It brought more people to the slaughterhouse here and completely butchered their finances when FTX inevitably crashed. So now let's start eating the meat to get to the bone. It's targeting financial YouTubers. I think you can probably imagine why. Financial YouTubers are looked at as experts in this kind of subject matter. Promoting FTX gives the perception to the audience that they've done their due diligence. They're working on the assumption that this financial YouTuber is a trusted source when it comes to this kind of information, so this product, which fits right in that wheelhouse, must be something legit and safe. Because this financial YouTuber is talking about it and feels comfortable enough promoting it, it's probably legit. They're viewed as experts, thus when they're doing an FTX sponsorship, it makes it seem even more legit than if it was just some completely random goofball that has no knowledge whatsoever on anything like crypto. So that, to me, makes a lot of sense. But in CoffeeZilla's video, he talks to a real lawyer, Legal Eagle. Legal Eagle is an amazing channel on YouTube that I can't recommend enough. And Legal Eagle weighs in and says that he actually views this as kind of a meritless lawsuit. I'll do my best to break it down very quickly, but keep in mind I'm also a fucking idiot. So the first thing that the lawsuit needs to be successful is it needs to connect the endorser to FTX itself. But the people that were endorsing it, I mean, they're not employees of FTX, they're not agents, they're not directors or anything like that. And oh my god, I got something in my eye. Fucking Sam Bankman-Fried shot a dust particle right in my eye. And then the second main component is they need to have the endorsers be liable, kind of like privy to what was happening at the behind the scenes of FTX, which Legal Eagle argues is kind of factually odd because even if they're endorsing FTX, it doesn't mean they understand what's going on the inside of the company. They're not necessarily going to be given information that isn't available to the public. They're not going to automatically know more than what's publicly accessible to everybody else. So he fundamentally says that it's not the strongest case, and he doesn't think it's going to go anywhere, but it's going to be expensive for the YouTubers named in the suit to fight it. But regardless of whether or not the lawsuit itself is successful, the community of these channels is not super happy about this whole situation because a lot of them fell hook, line, and sinker into FTX because of their recommendations. In CoffeeZilla's video, he interviews one of the people here, and CoffeeZilla doesn't pull punches. I always very much appreciate that about his interviews. So here he does absolutely lay it down to get to the bottom of very important questions such as, are you going to give back the money you made from the sponsorships? And all of those things. And all of it's answered in CoffeeZilla's video. But one thing that's interesting about the person being interviewed here is that he puts the onus on the viewers that fell for it, not so much him. In fact, he makes it very clear that he doesn't feel responsible. He just feels bad that some of the people that lost all of their money for being irresponsible in their own personal way. He doesn't feel responsible for it, which I found very interesting. I agree with CoffeeZilla that the viewers look at channels like his and other financial YouTubers as experts in this field. So when they're recommending something like FTX, they assume due diligence has been done and that this is a trustworthy organization that they can put money into. And in the case of FTX, that couldn't have been further from the truth. Thus, their credibility now is completely in the shitter. And a lot of people lost a lot of money from this trusting these YouTubers, which is a big problem. And that's a point CoffeeZilla likes to make at the end of the video that I think is a very strong point. So overall, these YouTubers are being sued for $1 billion. It doesn't, from the sound of it, from the expert like Legal Eagle, it doesn't sound like they're actually going to lose a collective $1 billion from all of this unless some kind of crazy shit comes out. But regardless, it highlights a huge issue where they would promote this product without ever really bothering to look that deep into it, which isn't a problem that's exclusive to just these financial YouTubers. That extends to the broader platform of YouTube as a whole. And in fact, it's happened to me before as well. On the official podcast, we actually had a sponsorship slot for Robinhood. And even though Robinhood isn't like an outright scam or anything, at least not that I know of, they have done some unforgivably shady shit. And I still feel awful about that whole situation because they had like 5 slots on the podcast and I thought it was a good service, but I was kind of naive to think that. I am no Robinhood fan anymore after the multitude of scummy moves they've made. So it is something that has happened in other verticals of the platform, but in this case it is targeted directly at the financial YouTubers in the lawsuit, and it's a very interesting situation here that I'm going to keep my eye on to see how it all plays out. But anyway, just wanted to talk about it a little bit. That's about it. So yeah. A class action lawsuit has been filed against PlayStation for nearly $6 billion by a consumer champion named Alex Neal. Now, I'm not Saul Goodman, but if I was, I'd start planting cocaine right now because this is a huge lawsuit that's going to need a miracle to win, I think. I'm not an expert here, but it does seem like this lawsuit's got teeth. And they're coming at Sony's throat. 6 billion clams. 6 billion barnacles. You know how much I love wackiness. I love wackiness more than Bubble Bass loves Krabby Patties, and this lawsuit's got me hyped. Now, this lawsuit is proudly brought to you by PlayStationYouOweUs.co.uk, which is a beautiful website name. Like, that's pretty aggressive. It reminds me of like a Roblox petition to get their V-Bucks back or something. But this was a site where people would sign up who felt wronged by Sony, and Alex Neil is the class representative. And on the site, there's a 5-point breakdown that talks about why they're trying to steam PlayStation's ham. So the first point being that Sony has a near monopoly on the sale of digital games and add-on content through its control of the PlayStation Store. Sony uses this dominance to enforce strict terms and conditions on game developers and publishers. These terms allow Sony to set the price of digital games and in-game content and charge a 30% commission on every purchase of digital games and in-game content from the PlayStation Store. This results in excessive and unfair prices to consumers for their digital games and in-game content. And these prices are all out of proportion to the costs of Sony providing these services to its consumers. So basically they're saying that Sony has used its dominant position in the market to unfairly overcharge consumers. Now, for reference, this was filed in the UK, and a brand new PS5 game in the UK will cost you about £70, which is the equivalent to $82. So I do think they're getting fucked in the ass a bit here. It's quite an overcharge if you ask me. And I'd love to see them win this lawsuit, you know, power to the players, as PlayStation says. But the more I read into it, the less confident I feel that they'll be able to Fortnite dance on the grave of Sony with this lawsuit. I don't really think they're going to get a big W from it. And let me just explain why I think that. I'd love to be proven wrong. Like I said, I think it would be great if they actually did win this lawsuit, because I do believe they're being overcharged. But I don't think they have the strongest case here. Just looking at these first 5 points, the first one just stands out as factually incorrect. They're claiming that Sony has a near monopoly on the sale of digital games and add-on content, which is just blatantly wrong. I would slap you with a fat F on your report card if you submitted this to me. Like, that is just not true. There's Xbox, Nintendo, Steam, there's so many other digital games vendors out there. It's not just Sony. Now, if you're talking about PlayStation exclusives, then yes, Sony has a monopoly on the digital sale of the PlayStation exclusives. But if that is the claim, it needs to be a lot more clear, because with the wording here, it just makes it sound like you think Sony is the only console to exist and the only platform for digital games, which it isn't. The other thing that was confusing my little reptile brain was that 30% commission they mentioned, talking about how the Sony demands 30% cut of digital game and in-game purchase sales from the developers. That's not exclusive to just Sony. Xbox, Nintendo eShop, pretty much every digital game vendor has some kind of commission that they force. It's not just Sony, so I don't understand why they would target them specifically, since it's the industry norm. But I decided to spread the cheeks a little further, dig a bit deeper, and listen to what the UK consumers were saying. And it seems to be that in the competitors' shops, like the Nintendo eShop, for example, they adjust their prices so that way the conversion makes sense and they're not being overcharged. Like, a new Nintendo Switch game is £50, which when converted to like US dollars is about what we're paying in the States. However, when it comes to the PlayStation Store, that's not the case. So a new PlayStation 5 game in the States is $70, and in the UK, it's £70. However, that converts to a lot more. That's 82 US dollars. They are just blatantly paying more. Instead of adjusting that price down to like £60 or whatever, they just keep it at that 70, and thus they're being overcharged. At least that's what I was reading from the UK consumers, which, again, at the end of the day, it's blatantly obvious that they are paying a lot more for games than we are in the States, and I totally do agree that it is a ripoff. And Alex Neil, the class representative, has 14 years of experience as a consumer rights advocate. So it's not some joke of a lawsuit that was haphazardly thrown together by a faceless nobody. This isn't like that situation on Twitch where that guy tried to sue Twitch for like $100 million because he couldn't stop watching female streamers and ejaculating, and he tried to blame Twitch for a porn addiction. This isn't that case. This is a real legitimate case that Alex Neil has put together. But I just don't know if it's focused enough to actually win. It seems way too generalized and broad, and you can look no further than their own website, where at the very end of these 5 points, they made this statement that just seems a bit misguided to me. This just seems like another desperate effort to throw something at the wall and see what sticks. The business model of gaming has changed dramatically over recent years. The move from games sold as physical discs to games sold digitally has seen the introduction of in-game content, where players must now also pay to progress, unlock more features, or customize their experience with new characters or weapons. Games are now designed to incentivize players to spend as much money as possible, including children. We believe that customers are paying too much for these digital products and that they deserve to be treated better by Sony and compensated. Our legal action is the first of its kind against Sony in the UK. Now, I am never a fan of the think of the children argument. I don't see why they put this here at all, because this doesn't even really run in line with what the lawsuit's aiming for. This is talking about how predatory microtransactions have become the norm, which they have, and it's a huge issue. But that's not what this lawsuit's really about. It's about being overcharged by the PlayStation Store. Talking about predatory and greedy marketing practices from these games that are preying on children, or like fucking massive dopamine hits, dopamine fiends to spend more money, is an issue, yes, but it's not the issue that you're really aiming at here. You're not putting that in the crosshairs. And it's also not like Sony's the puppet master forcing all these developers to be greedy and put these microtransactions in the game. Like, let's say Diablo Immortal's on PS5. Sony has no say-so in what way they monetize that game. It's on their platform, sure, but it was Blizzard that decided to put all of those terrible, terrible microtransactions in there that are preying on, you know, people with a spending problem or children or whatever, not Sony. Now, if the argument Sony keeps those prices too high, then yes, I suppose there's a real argument to be made there that the price is still too high, but the way this is framed makes it sound like it was Sony that decided to put all of those there when it wasn't. It wasn't their decision to have all of those predatory business practices baked into those games. That was the developers. I just don't really get why it's mentioned here. Because let's say Sony brings the price down so that way it's more fair across the board, where, you know, if you're buying a microtransaction in a game in the UK, it costs exactly the same as what it costs me to buy it in the States. It still doesn't solve the core issue that you're bringing up here with the games being predatory, right? Like, this whole paragraph here is like almost like fear-mongering, like games have become really greedy, and it's partly Sony's fault to some degree, which is why we believe you need to be compensated fairly, and we believe you need to be treated better. Like, what exactly do you mean? Again, getting the price down on microtransactions doesn't solve the problem you just highlighted of them being greedy and intrusive. That's still going to exist, even if you win every single bit of this case. Those microtransactions are still going to be there from the developers because it wasn't Sony that put them there. And just one last thing, in the press release, Neil wrote, "The game is up for Sony PlayStation. With this legal action, I am standing up for the millions of UK people who have been unwittingly overcharged. We believe Sony has abused its position and ripped off its customers." Alex Neil hits us with an anime protagonist line saying, "The game's up, Sony. I caught you with your pants down red-handed. It's time to face the music." And then in the press release, they also kind of frame it like the consumers didn't know they were being overcharged. But I just don't know how true that is. They kind of hint that it's Sony's fault that the consumers didn't know they were being overcharged. Like Sony was doing underhanded business tactics, when I just don't know if I believe that, because Sony doesn't really do anything besides just have a platform with a game and the price next to it, and you choose whether or not to buy it. Now, if you're not comparing that to the rest of the world's prices, then yeah, you would have no idea you're paying more than I am, for example. But it's not like it was Sony that was doing anything to mislead them, at least not that I've ever seen. They just put the games on their service with how much they cost, and it's up to the consumer if they find it to be a reasonable price or not. Now, if they do any research, they'll realize that they're paying more, and Australia especially is paying more than I am. Which is fucked up because there's no reason for it, but I don't think Sony has done anything to try and lead them down some false belief or anything. I think it's just a matter of they've been charging more and no one's really been questioning it, so they haven't changed it. And that's it. They haven't really been doing any kind of like propaganda to try and fool people into thinking that, you know, everyone's paying the same thing. And now that people are waking up to them being exploited, I think it's great that they're, you know, upset about it, because I don't think it's right. I don't think they should be paying more for no reason for the same game. It doesn't make any sense. But I just don't really like the way they talk about it in the press release, because they're putting that onus on Sony. That it was, you know, them keeping people in the dark when it wasn't. They just put the games up and that was it. But anyway, overall, I really do hope they win this class action lawsuit, and hopefully the prices do change because, like I said, it's a whole bunch of baloney that you're paying significantly more money for the same game in the UK, Australia, wherever else. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for that. So hopefully this does bring about positive change, and wishing them the best of luck. I just wanted to bring this up because this is a big lawsuit. That's about it. So yeah, if you're standing up, you're going to want to take a seat because I've got a doozy for you today. Have you ever thought to yourself, man, it'd be great if anime was real. Our world is so boring. And I can even sympathize with that a bit. I think it'd be great to like scream really loud and get huge muscles and grow taller. But then you need to take a step back and read a headline like this and realize that we're already living in an anime. And it's a goddamn shonen shithole. There's a Destiny YouTuber who's currently being sued by Bungie for $7.6 million. And just like the Celtics in the NBA Finals, he will absolutely lose. He doesn't stand a chance. He'd have better luck finding $7.6 million in the gutter than winning this lawsuit against Bungie. This guy took the plot of Death Note and applied it to YouTube. He basically became a Diet Kira, and as a result, it cost him his entire life here with this lawsuit. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I've loosely followed this story since it broke a couple months ago, and my god, there's so many twists and turns in here, it makes Game of Thrones look tame. It is so unbelievably goofy. And you all know how much I love like the goofy and the wacky, and my god, I'm ashamed to say it, but even the silly too. And this story is absolutely among the cream of the crop in that ballpark. So, let me break all of it down for you. A couple months ago, Destiny content creators had their judgment day. Rapture had occurred. In total, 96 videos just vanished from a multitude of Destiny content creators seemingly out of nowhere and for no reason. The videos were totally innocent. There was nothing wrong with them, but they had all been struck down by a company called CSC, which is a legitimate copyright management firm that represents Bungie. So, content creators rightfully were very upset with Bungie, thinking that they'd betrayed the community. Bungie had decided to go to war against the creators, and it was this big bloodbath online for a while of people hating Bungie for what they did. But it turns out Bungie was also a victim. Their own videos got copyright struck and taken down by the same CSC agency. So what went wrong? Did an employee go rogue? Just have a Winter Soldier moment and just go full nuclear and take all Destiny content down as they saw fit? Well, as it turns out, there was a bad actor impersonating CSC Global. And they were the puppet master behind the scenes taking down all of these videos. So it naturally became the question of who is doing it and why, because Bungie also put out a statement saying they're affected and they're investigating because this is not okay. Bungie wouldn't do this, it's not them. They were as confused as the rest of the community. But they weren't just confused, they were furious. They went fucking berserk. They weren't just mad at this douchebag that was copyright striking everyone with these fraudulent takedown requests. They were mad at YouTube. They took YouTube to court in order to get Google to finally revealed the identity of the person behind this, because YouTube was putting up a big stink about it. They even had the same problems as normal YouTubers, saying Bungie went through customer service and didn't get the issue solved for days. They even said that YouTube support didn't even respond to them in a timely fashion, if at all. Reading this when it was happening was shocking, because even a billion-dollar company like Bungie has to go through the same channels as the fucking goobers like me and all other YouTubers do. And it sucks. It's trash. Bungie got a taste of what it's like to be a normal YouTuber for a little bit. You get no answers, you get no response, and you get no solutions when you go up to like the top of the food chain of YouTube. They would have had better luck just doing what all the rest of us do and start whining on Twitter about it and crying for YouTube's attention, because it seems like the only team there that can actually solve things is the Team YouTube Twitter account. So instead of like going through the court as well as the support channels, Bungie should have just went right to Twitter with a twitlonger or some shit and a trending hashtag, because it seems like it's all they'll respond to. They won't even respond to a billion-dollar company through their official channels. What a joke. What chance do any normal YouTubers have if Bungie, of all companies, can't get them to talk to them? It's laughable. They slammed YouTube's absolutely archaic and dog shit system here with a fully detailed outline of how it happened and how weak YouTube's system is, and then finished it off by leaving YouTube a 1-star Yelp review on their support process, saying that Bungie was stranded in a circular loop. When I read that circular loop line, it was like this eureka moment. A light bulb flicked on in my head, and I knew exactly what happened here. Bungie, being as naive as they were about YouTube, thinking that good systems were in place, went on their YouTube channel and went to the partner creator support line, which lets you talk to what's supposed to be support agents at YouTube. But they're basically just bots. I don't think that there's anyone using that with a pulse. And what happens when you try and talk to people through that is they just keep linking you frequently asked questions, or they just keep asking you the same question you've answered a million times, and you just go in a circle forever. Like Ouroboros constantly eating its own tail. Nothing gets solved when you contact that line. It's only frequently asked questions or publicly accessible YouTube blog posts about what might be adjacent to your issue, or repeated questions ad nauseum forever. I knew exactly what happened once I read Circular Loop. So Bungie couldn't even get in contact with YouTube directly initially, it seems. They went to that boilerplate, terrible service of the support line. But it looks like they did finally get it solved because they got the person's identity. And the story behind this is so stupid, it's crazy. There was a disgruntled Destiny YouTuber named Lord Nazo, or Nick. And Nick's YouTube channel focused on directly ripping music from Destiny's Taken King and Witch Queen official soundtracks and uploading them to his personal YouTube channel. And despite repeated takedown notices, Nick decided to leave the music up, which eventually resulted in him losing the account. And he got mad. Nick got very upset at this. This happened months prior to him impersonating CSC Global. So something snapped in Nick here, and he wanted revenge. And then he thought back to the time he watched Death Note, and he's like, maybe I could do that. So he impersonated a CSC Global employee and started filing takedown requests, fraudulent takedown requests, on pretty much anyone who made Destiny content. Just kept writing their name in the Death Note, just another one chalked up on the board, another victim, another body left in the wake of Nick's rage and his quest for revenge. And just like when L teamed up with Kira, Lord Nazo was directly trying to hunt himself down in secret. So he was on the front lines communicating with the content creators that he was actively striking, pretending to be on their side, and pretending to help try and find this fraudster that was issuing the takedowns. So he deceived all of them into thinking that he was there to help them, like Scooby-Doo, trying to sniff out the actual criminal here in this mystery. Meanwhile, he was the one actively doing it. It's so goofy. He'd send messages like this here, some of the silliest shit. Yeah, it's the people like us who suffer, the little guys, or just anyone with fewer than 250k YouTube subscribers and 100k Twitter followers. This was absolutely a plan to put himself at the bottom of the list of potential suspects. So he'd say things like, yeah, I was also a victim of this a few months ago. There's something real evil out there, and we've got to find him. I won't rest until this dubious actor is brought to justice. He'd go on and on, dropping breadcrumbs like it's definitely a fraud, and then even going into detail about how easy it is to take down someone's content using YouTube's broken system. Just constantly saying things like, it's actually a fraud out there and I know it. Just trying like his best to make it seem like he's super innocent and on their side. But unfortunately it was all a ruse and he was the one guilty of this crime. And for this crime he is facing a $7.6 million lawsuit. That's a fat one. To my knowledge, that's the biggest lawsuit against any YouTuber so far. The previous record, I believe, was the $1.7 million against Roblox YouTuber Ruben. This is blowing that out of the water right now. And this is a lawsuit this guy would absolutely lose. He's guilty. Like he is literally like admitted to it. He has been caught red-handed with his hand in the cookie jar. They have absolutely caught him dead to rights on this charge. He did this. And it's pretty cut and dry. They got the information from YouTube. They even have these Discord screenshots where he like subtly hints at exactly how he's doing it. There's just no wiggle room here. So this is a lawsuit that he can't possibly win, really. And I've seen a lot of people defending him saying like he was actually doing it just to make a point about how broken the system is. And that's a good point to make because the system is broken, but this is the worst way of doing it. He's committing crimes. This is a crime. And it's a really douchey one at that because he is actively hurting the livelihood of all of his peers. All 96 of those videos that he copyright struck were either friends of his, mutuals, or Destiny content creators that rely on content creation for their livelihood, and he threatened it, directly threatened it. That's not necessarily a petty crime. That's a big deal, and that's a wide-stretching one that affects a lot of people. So I think he absolutely deserves to be slapped like this and made an example out of. Shit like this isn't okay. YouTube actually slapped someone like this in a similar fashion back in like 2019. There was a guy issuing fraudulent takedowns for other content. I think it was Minecraft. And he got slapped with $25,000 per takedown notice. And you know what happened? That shit didn't happen again because they made an example out of that guy. And that's exactly what Bungie's doing with Nick, Lord Nazo here. And I think it's the right play. Bungie's seeking $150,000 for each of the works implicated in the fraudulent takedowns for a total of $7.65 million, and plus the legal fees. And just last week, they won a settlement of twice that in a dispute with a Destiny 2 cheat seller. So Bungie's already riding momentum here. They already copped a previous W here, and it looks like they might get another one if this makes it to court. And all of this over Miner's YouTube channel, which had less than 3,000 subs. Ultimately, I think Lord Nazo wanted to do something good. Like, he truly believed he was the hero in this anime, where he's fighting against a mega corporation that wrongfully took down his content, and he wanted to make an example out of a broken system. But he failed to realize that he was never the hero to begin with, because his content was straight rips from their official soundtrack that he re-uploaded, fully knowing that that's not allowed, and even receiving warning that that's not allowed, and still acted surprised and angry when he eventually lost his channel because of it. And then in his temper tantrum, tried to spin this narrative where, like, this system's broken and I'll prove it by targeting the company that made me mad. And by targeting that company, he targeted a ton of normal people that had nothing to do with Bungie. And as a result of that, their livelihoods got kind of fucked for a little bit. Bungie's reputation got fucked for a while. And a lot of the other music uploaders who actually do have permission and uploaded music fully within fair use policies, they took down their content in order to avoid being struck because they thought it was Bungie just going on a killing spree. So they panicked and removed all of that content from their own channels, which again hurt their livelihood and still does because the content's not back up since they deleted it. And that now is off YouTube. All of that content's gone as a result of this guy going commando mode. So the results of all of this were overwhelmingly negative across the board. There was nothing good here for anyone. And most of all, the worst part of it happened to Nick himself, now facing a life-changing lawsuit of $7.6 million. A really fucking crazy story, honestly, with a twist ending that I didn't expect. When I was first reading about this, I thought it'd be like a group of people doing a coordinated effort against Bungie that they had like a disagreement with. I didn't think it would be a single person that just had a petty disagreement with the company. It's just absolutely mind-blowing stuff. So I just wanted to share this because I thought it was pretty crazy and pretty sad at the same time, to be honest. And that's about it. See ya. Stand back. I'm about to name drop an ancient evil that I haven't talked about in a couple of years now. Poopsie Slime Surprise Unicorns. This was a very expensive toy that was marketed towards children, and the whole concept is it's a unicorn that poops into a toilet. There's two models, one that just sings about defecating, and then one where kids can become their own little Walter White, and instead of making meth, they're making feces, and it'll poop it out into a toilet. I made a video on it almost 3 years ago now. It's actually where that woo yeah baby meme comes from. It was from the Poopsie Slime Surprise video. And I made quite a bit of content around it because I was so blown away by the concept. It's just a toy that shits. That's it. And yet it's extremely popular with kids. I understand I'm getting older now, and aging is cringe, but there's no way I'm that out of touch. What the fuck is the joy of watching a plastic unicorn take a shit? I still don't fully understand it. And it's not just Poopsie. It spawned an entire wave of shitters. So there's a flamingo that shits called Gotta Go Flamingo. There's also a couple other animals that do it as well, and it's all just about a dilated butthole fucking dumping slime into a toilet and calling it shit. It's wild. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about Poopsie today is because they're actually getting sued by the Black Eyed Peas because Poopsie Slime Surprise made a parody of their song My Humps. It's called My Poops. I'm not going to play any of it for you now because it could now be a bit of a legal issue if I was. But the song goes, my poops, my poops, my poops. What you going to do with all that poop? Whoop, whoop. I'm going to get loopy off my poopy. And it continues, and it's very clearly supposed to be a play off My Humps. Apparently they didn't have permission for it and are being sued by the Black Eyed Peas now, which is just a wacky lawsuit because it has to talk about Poopsie and shitting unicorns and comparing it to the Black Eyed Peas music. This is going to be a lawsuit to keep an eye on. This might be a industry-defining moment. This is a big one, no doubt. I went over it on stream, reading about it. I was actually surprised to learn that apparently a parody like My Poops is often protected by fair use regulation. I was under the impression that when you're borrowing other melodies and music from existing tracks, you had to pay for the licensing rights to use it. Like the same way you do if you're using samples from other songs in your music, you have to pay for the sample. I thought it worked like that for a parody song as well. But I guess there's actually a bit of gray area there and some wiggle room, so there is a chance Poopsie Slime Surprise walks out with a W from this lawsuit. But then again, they could absolutely get flushed down the toilet. But hey, like I said, I'm not entirely sure. It's an interesting and goofy lawsuit nonetheless. There is a chance Poopsie Slime Surprise emerges from the sewer victorious. But anyway, I'll go over some of the stream moments here while I was reading about it and expanding on it. Did you hear about the South Park lawsuit? No, but you did just remind me one I haven't talked about yet. The Black Eyed Peas are suing Poopsie Slime Surprise. I totally forgot to talk about that. You remember that pooping unicorn? The shit that gave me an involuntary vasectomy when I was getting out of the packaging? They're getting sued because of their track. So Black Eyed Peas, My Humps ripped off by pooping unicorn toy lawsuit claims, which it was. I don't know if I can even play the song, considering this is now a legal issue, but the song goes, my poops, my poops, my poops, gonna get loopy off my poopy. It's very much a ripoff of My Humps, and I guess they didn't have permission to do that, which is interesting. Doesn't fall in the parody. Well, you still need permission to do a parody. If you're using the exact same, like, everything, you still need permission. That's why Weird Al never made a Prince song, because Prince would never give him permission. Oh, I forgot how expensive the Poopsie Slime Surprise is. $100 to $300 on Amazon. And one of them doesn't even shit itself. The one that slammed into my nutsack, that one actually doesn't shit itself, whatever. And it's still super expensive. That one just sings and dances. If you want the one that actually cooks up and, like, brews feces, it's a big science project. Matt and I made like 3 videos with the Poopsie Slime Surprise a few years back. I know this toy inside and out. I performed like colonoscopies on this thing. So yeah, I know all about the entire animals shitting themselves genre of children's toys. This is the clip, this is the video where the whoa yeah baby clip comes from. This one, yeah. This has been in circulation for a long time. I'm surprised they've waited like 2 or 3 years to sue them. Maybe they were trying to make sure that it got maximum money, so they were letting it ride for a long time so that way they could like sue for more, because they could claim more damages and they can turn to like the profit the Poopsie makes, because it's apparently a very popular toy, which I would have never guessed. That would have been a galaxy brain scheme, and it's probably exactly what the reasoning was. People pay for unicorn shit when I can send you shit for free. Why would you do that, though? That just costs you money to send the shit. This is kind of a weird paragraph. BMG's lawyer alleges that My Poops infringes on Black Eyed Peas' surprise 2005 hit single My Humps, 75% of whose publishing rights belong to BMG thanks to a corporate acquisition. What's the point in mentioning that it was a surprise hit? It feels so weird. And then I guess the corporate acquisition is pertinent to the case, but still interesting to just mention that it's a surprise hit single. It was the Black Eyed Peas. They didn't make anything that flopped during that era. So going into this, I felt like the Black Eyed Peas had a pretty strong case, but listening to them argue it is kind of silly. It uses a similar delivery and vocal inflections as used by Fergie on the original sound recording. I just couldn't disagree more. I'd love to pull up the song real quick, but I don't want to get slapped by this somehow. It's very clearly like a Alvin and the Chipmunks style vocal. Fergie doesn't sound like that. That's just like an insult to Fergie to compare her to the shitting unicorn vocalist. It's pretty dumb. But, I mean, overall, yeah, they did rip the song, and I guess it was without permission. Oh, interesting. MGA Entertainment first released the toy in time for Christmas 2018. The suit alleges that when BMG became aware of the infringement, it sent a cease and desist letter, which they ignored. What a fucking Chad. Yeah, we make a unicorn that shits into a toilet for kids. What of it? We're gonna play hardball. Fuck your cease and desist. Oh, interesting. The company could argue that My Poops is a parody of My Humps and thus protected as fair use. In Campbell vs. Acuff Rose Music in 1994, Supreme Court held that the parody can be a form of comment or criticism on the original work, which is protected. I thought you couldn't do that for music, though. Am I misremembering? Because for Weird Al, Weird Al never did a parody of a Prince song and never will. Because Prince didn't want him to. Now, was that just out of respect? Because I thought it was a legal thing. Okay. I was misunderstanding then. All of this over a defecating unicorn. Right now, there's an extremely interesting lawsuit going on between Activision and Anthony Fantano of The Needle Drop, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's a real eyebrow raiser, I'll tell you what. For starters, most of these publications refer to Fantano as a TikTok music critic. That's the most disrespectful shit ever. That's like cheerleaders laughing at you right to your face, pulling your pants down. Like, that's so embarrassing to get labeled that. They're spitting on him. Fantano's been on the internet long before TikTok ever even existed as an idea, so I'd have to give those headlines a light too. But anyway, when reading those headlines, what I expected in this story was Activision being 100% in the wrong and bullying a creator because they are a company known for shady, awful, garbage, horrible, horrible things, as well as being unbelievably greedy. So I thought this would be a case of that, them strong-arming a creator and wiping their ass with their face. But after reading through the actual lawsuit and going over the case, it's super weird because Activision is still a supervillain, greedy, evil corporation, but the argument they're making in this lawsuit is actually one that helps normal TikTok users. I want to make it clear right away, I am not a fan of Activision. You certainly won't find me pumping my fist for that company. I am no Activision enthusiast. I am, however, an Anthony Fantano fan. So this was a really weird case because I don't see how Anthony Fantano could possibly argue his side. Melon magic can only go so far, and in this case, I don't think it'll be far enough. And if Anthony Fantano did somehow win, it could open the door to large-scale exploitation of a system a lot of normal TikTok users rely on. And I'll explain what I mean in a moment. And I want to be clear right now, Anthony Fantano has not spoke his piece on the subject yet, probably because it's a very touchy legal matter, so it'd be very difficult to speak on it. So I can only really give you the perspective of what's been laid out so far, and maybe that'll be subject to change as it continues, but basically right now, Anthony Fantano had a very popular meme of him go viral called Enough Slices. It's a meme that's been used endlessly on TikTok. It's become a very popular meme. And Activision recently used it in an advertisement they made for Crash Bandicoot on TikTok. And Anthony Fantano allegedly cease and desisted them, to which they complied and took down the video. But then, according to Activision, Anthony Fantano reached back out and said that they're going to be required to pay a substantial amount of money in damages for using his intellectual property, basically, that meme. And they said, no sir, we're not playing ball here. That's not a game of foosball we're interested in engaging in. So they are countersuing Anthony Fantano and looking for a declaratory ruling that states that he will no longer be allowed to try and get money out of users or companies that use his meme clip, because they say that Enough Slices meme was knowingly entered into the commercial sounds library on TikTok. Now, most of you have probably already activated your super sniffer and smelled a little something fishy here, because there is a big difference between a normal TikTok user, fucking Cliff Blast Cleaver, using Anthony Fantano's Enough Slices meme for a goofy little TikTok he made, and a company like Activision using a meme he made to sell a product. They're very different. It wouldn't be unheard of to be okay with a normal person using your meme and not being okay when it's a company using it to sell a product that you don't agree with and you don't like. And that's a fundamental right that you have, that your likeness can't just be manipulated and used to mislead consumers or something into believing that you support a product that you don't. And this is what makes the case really interesting, because in here, what they used was a meme from Anthony Fantano that they are arguing was opted into a program called the Commercial Sound Library, and in the Commercial Sound Library's terms, it very clearly states that when you opt in here, when it is part of this directory, that it is completely fair game for companies, brands, advertising partners, and normal users to use for any and all purposes whatsoever, which does include paid content and advertisements. Now, since the ad was deleted, I'm unsure if they used Anthony Fantano's actual video clip that has his face in it, or if it was just the audio. I'm really not sure. But even still, the meme itself was uploaded, apparently, to this Commercial Sounds library, so Activision's argument is that he can't just selectively enforce who is and who isn't allowed to use that meme, because it has been uploaded to the Commercial Sounds library, allegedly. He can't just revoke permission for people that he doesn't like or brands that he doesn't support. That's the core of their argument. They're also claiming that this is overt gamesmanship, a nefarious money-making scheme from Fantano, where he'll allow some people to use it, but when he sees that there's a financial opportunity to make money from it, then he strikes and pounces on it and tries to threaten for money in return for the use of the meme clip. According to Activision, he's stated that he's done this before to a couple of other organizations, I suppose, to which they have complied, but Activision isn't going to. They are arguing he doesn't have the legal grounds to do that. He can't just selectively enforce who's allowed to use that when he has knowingly uploaded it to a directory that has a blanket use for everyone for any purpose whatsoever. And it extends to normal users too, and this is what I was saying a bit earlier, where this argument from Activision is actually helpful to normal TikTok users, because normal TikTok users often rely on the Commercial Sound library in their content, and by their own terms, it should be safe for them to use. But if Anthony Fantano does squeak out the W here, the big dubski, it would kind of throw that into turmoil, where you wouldn't feel comfortable using the Commercial Sound library anymore, because there could be a bad actor that has swooped in to exploit it, where you might use one of their memes and they'll sue you for it or demand compensation for it, even though it was uploaded to the Commercial Sound library. So like, if Sally Strawberry taps into a popular meme and the user's like, damn, that content was fucking cheeks, that was some turbo ass, I want money because you used it, then it would be a lot scarier. Now, obviously, Activision isn't making this argument for the better of the platform. They're arguing in their own selfish interests, but what they're arguing does actually extend to help protect normal users if Activision wins. I've seen a lot of discussion on this topic, and it seems it's all hyper-focused on brand versus creator, which I do understand. A lot of the claims are around brands trying to exploit creators and use their likeness to mislead consumers through advertisements and falsely label support where there is none. Like, I do get that angle, but this case is not specific to just that. If it was, I wouldn't really give a fuck. My heart's not exactly breaking or shedding any tears because brands might not be able to use TikTok memes. That's not a big deal to me. It's just simply, this was in the Creative Sound library, and there is a potential that it wasn't uploaded by Anthony Fantano with his knowledge. There is definitely wiggle room that maybe there was some kind of automatic inclusion in there that he didn't consent to. That is possible, and that would be a core component of this case that would be very, very interesting if that's the truth. But since it is there, and it does clearly state brands can use it for any purpose, then if the rules against them, it means that no one can really use it for any purpose because all of a sudden it's now unsafe. This is just one of those things where I do think there's a potential for a dangerous precedent being set where if someone knowingly uploads something to the commercial sound library, which obviously states that it can be used by anyone, including brands, for any purpose, you really shouldn't have the right or ability to start attacking selectively and threatening people for money because that extends beyond just brands. That extends to literally any user ever. What's to stop me from uploading tons of audio and sounds and shit to the commercial sound library as bait, and then just going around cease and desisting and demanding money from people that use it because they were under the impression that it was safe to use? It's one of those things that exists on other platforms as well. Like YouTube has one for music. It's the Common Music Library or something like that, where artists knowingly post songs that are DMCA free for creators to use. You know, they just choose the music and it's totally fine, there's no problems. But what if an artist said, you know what, I'm going to put music on here and when a popular YouTuber uses it, I'm going to demand money from it, even though it's uploaded to a service that states that it's, you know, okay to use and there will be no problems with it. It's one of those things where these directories exist on other platforms like YouTube and Twitch, and if all of a sudden people are able to put things on there as kind of like a trap where you use it and then you could potentially face like a lawsuit or something, it's just bad for everybody, not just brands. And according to a lawyer named Richard Hogue, he believes the company has a decent case. Basically, he says, as described by Activision, it would seem they have a good case. The TikTok audio library appears to allow for general commercial use on TikTok, so anyone placing content in the library should be limited in their rights to challenge. That said, there could still be facts we don't know, like whether an unauthorized third party actually affected the sound's inclusion or even where it might have been automated. So fundamentally, the entire case is going to have to be argued on Fantano's side that he was not the one that put it in the commercial sounds library. At least that's my understanding of it, because again, it is entered in there apparently, and since it's there, it means any brand, company, or user can use it without consequence. It's fair game, you know? It's open season on enough slices. So Activision saying, since that's the case, Anthony Fantano can't try and threaten them for money because they used it. And Activision is seeking a declaratory ruling that will prevent not only Anthony Fantano, but anyone on the platform, any kind of bad actor perhaps, that might come forward to try and extort money out of users that use content from the commercial sound library, when it's totally in their right to use that content. The only thing that can really win this for Anthony Fantano, I think, is if he can prove that he wasn't the one who opted into the commercial sound library for the Enough Slices clip. It was some kind of third party that automatically entered it in there without his knowledge, or it was, you know, a fucking burglar broke in and in the middle of the night uploaded the Enough Slices audio or meme clip to the commercial sounds library. I feel like that's the only thing in this case, but even then, I still don't know how liable Activision would be for damages because it's not like they would know that it wasn't Anthony Fantano that uploaded it. It's there, thus you would work under the assumption that the user is the one that put it there. So the whole case is just really messy, and it really fucking sucks because I very much dislike Activision. I really fucking do. But here, I just don't really see how Anthony Fantano has a good argument in this case. I'm going to go ahead and just play all the stream clips where I went through this from the very beginning here so you can kind of follow along with the entire story. I kind of just broke it down here in the beginning, but in the stream clips you'll get to get the entire, you know, situation. So I'll just go ahead and let that rip. The game company claims Anthony Fantano is misusing intellectual property laws by threatening to sue TikTokers over a widely memed audio clip. Video game giant Activision is suing a prominent TikTok music critic over a viral audio clip that he created, claiming he is unfairly demanding that some of the social media users pay him an extortionate settlement after they reused the heavily memed clip. In a complaint filed Monday in California, Activision accused Anthony Fantano of misusing intellectual property laws by threatening to selectively sue TikTokers who use Enough Slices, a popular audio clip that originated with a video Fantano posted in 2021. Activision, which says it receives such a threat after it used the clip in a promotion for its Crash Bandicoot franchise, claims that Fantano intentionally made the clip available through TikTok's audio library, meaning he cannot now sue the hundreds of thousands of users that choose to use it. This dispute is a textbook example of how intellectual property law can be misused by individuals to leverage unfair cash payments, Activision's lawyer wrote. Fantano was very happy to receive the benefit of the public use of the Slices video. It was only after he identified a financial opportunity, namely receiving unjustified settlement payments, that he suddenly decided that his consent was limited. This law does not permit, and the court should not countenance such overt gamesmanship. That is interesting. If you make something available through the TikTok audio library, I'm very unfamiliar with the platform, does that just waive your right to enforce, like, IP law on it? Probably. Makes sense. It's like a public audio repository. Well, what I want to know, if on TikTok, do things just enter the TikTok's audio library by default, just by posting? Because I know they have that, like, original sound shit, and it goes to the source, and it's like fucking Bumblefuck Joe over here is the one that created it, but it's not like he did it on his own accord. TikTok auto-generated it. Yeah, at least I think that's how it works, right? You have to make it a sound through a video. Oh, so you do have to, like, say, I want this in the audio library by making it a sound. That's a very interesting case. So has Fantano done this to other TikTok creators, or is it just Activision? And if it is other creators and not just Activision, I wonder what the legal ground is for using it in an official ad. Because it'd be different if it's just like, you know, fucking Carl Hamburger using Anthony Fantano's meme in a TikTok versus Activision using it in an official ad. Only way I think Fantano has a case is if someone else uploaded his video audio to the library. True. In its lawsuit, Activision says there's an obvious reason why this clip was used so widely. Fantano deliberately and knowingly added the audio to TikTok's library, making it easily available for millions of other users to incorporate into their own videos. They say he even opted into the commercial sounds library, which means he agreed his clip could be legally used in promotional videos and brands. That sounds like a dagger if that's true. That sounds like it's open and shut if that's the case, if that's real. If he opted into the commercial sounds, that seems like he waived all rights on that. I don't know how he'd win this case. The company says it was surprised when it received a legal threat from Fantano after it used enough slices in a TikTok video depicting the creation of custom Crash Bandicoot sneakers. He allegedly told the gaming giant the use of his clip not only used his name and likeness rights without permission, but also violated federal trademark laws by suggesting he had endorsed the company's games. Which is a real thing. You can't do that. But if it was made readily available on the Commercial Sounds library, I don't know how you're supposed to argue that you didn't give your permission. That's what this is for, I imagine. This is what it's for on every other platform. Maybe it's different on TikTok. Activision says it agreed to pull the clip down, but Fantano demanded the company either immediately pay him substantial monetary damages or be prepared to defend a lawsuit. The exact amount of money demanded was not included in the lawsuit, but Activision says Fantano asked for a six-figure sum and said that other companies had paid a similar sum in order to avoid the expense of litigation. What the fuck? On his Dr. Evil grind, $1 billion. Hey, I'm always rooting for the little guy here. I don't know how you're supposed to somehow argue that what they did is illegal and violated federal trademark laws if it was knowingly agreed upon to enter the Commercial Sounds library. That seems like it's an uphill battle, but I mean, that maybe there's more to it. This is right now just Activision's lawyer. With Fantano's approval and encouragement, hundreds of thousands of TikTok users have incorporated Slice's audio into their videos over the past 2 years. But now, Fantano has embarked on a scheme whereby he selectively threatens to sue certain users of the Slice's audio unless they pay him extortionate amounts of money for their alleged use. The commercial music library from the TikTok's ad manager. Let's see. In order to get it there, it's called Commercial Sounds. Even in the own post, Commercial Sounds. But it's listed as the commercial music library. Okay, I see. So this is it. This is correct. CML features Commercial Sounds, both with and without lyrics, whatever. Who can use the commercial music library? Is for TikTok users that use TikTok for marketing, advertising, sponsorships, endorsements, or publicity, including official brand accounts, their promotional partners and creators, NGOs, and government organizations. You can also use the commercial music library for organic and paid content. This sounds like it's kaput. If it was uploaded there by Fantano, I think it's probably checkmate. Yes, sir, lawyer critical. Hey, man, it's just basic reading comprehension. If I uploaded me saying, you know, woo, yeah, baby, to the commercial library, I can't exactly be upset if all these brands start using it. I can't then start looking for compensation. Yeah, you can. No, I can't. I literally cannot. Do you agree that your sound can be used by brands, marketing, endorsements, sponsorships, and all of that? Yes. Okay. And now I don't. I've changed my mind. You can't. Why? Because you signed. It's here. You put it here. It's literally the SpongeBob scene of, is this your wallet? Like when Man Ray's trying to return the wallet to Patrick. Was the advert also on TikTok? Apparently, yes. According to this, it was a TikTok video they made about Crash Bandicoot that used the sound. I think Danny's right. I think he'd have to prove that he wasn't the one that uploaded it to the commercial sound library. Even then, that wouldn't be on Activision. Them taking it down at his request would have been more than enough. True. That would be true. They would have no idea that it wasn't him, but instead his evil twin that uploaded it. I mean, you're not wrong. And they did take it down. They just said, oh, okay, we'll take it down. And now they have to defend themselves against a lawsuit, or they have to defend themselves against legal threats, and are now issuing a lawsuit as a counter. Are you talking about this last sentence? Activision is seeking a so-called declaratory ruling that Fantano cannot sue TikTok users over the clip. They're saying that Fantano can't go after anyone that uses the clip because they're well within their rights to, since he waived the rights by putting it on that commercial library. I'm confused. This trial about Okay, here's a little advice to all of these publications writing articles about this. Change the title. This title has confused everybody. Actually, reading through the case is very different. In a nutshell, Anthony Fantano had a very popular clip, meme clip, which was entered into the commercial music library, commercial sound library, whatever, on TikTok. It became usable, so a lot of people used it on TikTok, including Activision. And when Activision used it, Anthony Fantano threatened them, forced them to take it down, which they did, and then said, if you don't pay me a six-figure sum, allegedly, then you're going to have to defend them. You're going to have to defend yourself in court. And then apparently also said other companies have paid a sum to avoid this. So now Activision is suing, saying, no, you can't do that. You uploaded this to the commercial sound library, meaning anyone can use this, including companies. And Activision's right. It's literally in the exact terms on TikTok that the commercial music library is usable by any brand, any user, anything for any purpose. You consent to that being used anywhere when it is uploaded there. I don't know how he would win this one. But I'm no Activision fan, so if he squeaks out a dub from this, that'd be fucking crazy. That would be wild. I have no idea how he'd do it. I don't even think Saul Goodman could pull this one off, but if he somehow did, that would be unreal. That is a good point, actually. Okay, you made a good point, Otaku. Cool name as well, I guess. It'd fuck everyone else by letting him win and set a precedent that you could pull your agreement after making it. That would be actually pretty dangerous. If Fantano does win, he sets the precedent that even if you upload your sounds to the commercial sounds library, meaning you waive the right and anyone can use it for any reason without compensation, if he does win, that means anything uploaded there is fair game for a lawsuit if you use it. That's a very good point. That's very true. That would be bad. I've said for years now, one of the most evil companies on the planet is Disney. I imagine the board of directors is a who's who of supervillains. You probably got Mickey Mouse right next to Lucifer in that seat. It is always shocking to see just how low they'll stoop for the sake of a couple extra doubloons. They're like a real-world Umbrella Corp, but instead of manufacturing the T virus that turns people into zombies, they manufacture the D virus that turns people into Disney Defenders, where they'll always fight their PR battles for them and constantly empty their piggy bank for anything Disney slaps its fucking logo on. It's sickening, even when they are completely in the wrong. I've been following a story for the last couple days, and I imagine some of you have as well. It's a very sad story about a woman who had an allergic reaction and died after eating at a Disney Springs restaurant. And the holly jolly old assholes at Disney are arguing that because the husband signed up for a Disney Plus trial in 2019, he agreed to terms that would basically turn this lawsuit into toilet paper. To any sensible human being on the planet with a functioning frontal lobe, you're probably asking yourself, how does a Disney Plus trial at all have any grounds for this lawsuit when the allergic reaction happened at one of Disney's parks. It's not like his wife had an allergic reaction to the dog shit Disney Plus is feeding them. She passed away because of a complete failure from the restaurant. It is entirely their fault. So the couple chose to eat at a restaurant called Raglan Road Irish Pub, and they told the waiter that she had severe allergies to dairy and nuts, and she was unequivocally assured the food would be allergen-free, and they chose this restaurant because it is apparently very accommodating to people with allergies. So when the order arrived, there was no allergen-free flags, so they inquired again if it was allergen-free, and were once again assured that they were safe for her to consume. 45 minutes later, she had an allergic reaction. Even after administering an EpiPen, she had difficulty breathing, collapsed, and later passed away. And the husband is rightfully trying to sue Disney for this because it is a colossal fuck up here. And Disney's just dancing on her grave. They're just spitting on her memory by trying to toss out the wrongful death lawsuit, by trying to say that the husband signed up for a Disney Plus account in 2019, which has language that prevents them from being sued in this manner. It'd have to be through arbitration, meaning it's overseen by a neutral third party and not a judge. And also, he had apparently agreed to similar terms when purchasing a park ticket online in September 2023. So this opened up a massive can of worms here about all of the sneaky, scummy shit companies sneak into their terms when you sign up for services or if you purchase things online. You know that shit that every human being on the planet skips through with agreeing to terms and conditions? Yeah, it turns out sometimes there's some really awful shit in there. I wanted to wait before talking about this because I've been talking to a lawyer about it because I was very curious if there is any legs at all for Disney to stand on here. But I just couldn't wait because I've already seen a couple of conversations about why it's entirely this couple's fault for gambling with their food allergies. The state of the world is so fucking saddening. How is it a gamble? So she was allergic to dairy and nuts, and this was made abundantly clear to the staff of a restaurant that is well known for being accommodating to allergies. Apparently this restaurant has a commitment to being very conscious of allergens. So they chose this restaurant for that reason and made it very clear multiple times that dairy and nuts were a problem. And they were assured multiple times that the food they had ordered was not going to pose any problems for that allergy. They did everything they could. That's not gambling, you absolute Cro-Magnon that are arguing that it's actually their fault, Disney's blameless. This is what I'm talking about with the D virus. People falling over themselves to try and take bullets for Disney. It is a fuck up from the restaurant and by extension, Disney. I know they have more money than God, but even still, this is such an outrageous claim to be making because signing up for a Disney Plus trial should have no effect on what happens at a Disney park. That's not related at all. It shouldn't extend to that. Just imagine if that was normal. Let's say you're on a Boeing flight and all the screws on the flight all of a sudden just spontaneously pop off like a water balloon exploding, and all of a sudden your plane just disassembles itself in the air and you die. Everyone dies on board because the Boeing flight malfunctions, as Boeing flights are known to do these days. Well, what if Boeing said, that's a real shame about that, but, we can't be held liable for this because every single one of them, when purchasing their tickets online, agreed that no matter what happens, it's going to have to go to arbitration, so sorry about that, but really condolences. I am super confident that wouldn't work. You can't just have this blanket statement of, whatever happens, not our fault, and you agreed to it, see, you said right here, doesn't matter, you're fucked. Like, that can't work. And from what I've heard from a couple of lawyers that have talked about it online, as well as a couple conversations I've had, this doesn't really protect Disney, but this has become so common in contracts as a way of trying to weasel big corporations out of liability. But it's still scary because it does give them some leverage to fight on. It gives them an angle, and with the amount of money they can pour into defending themselves, it's going to make it very hard for normal people to fight back, even when Disney is 100% responsible for the tragedy that occurred. But at least Disney's very apologetic here. We're deeply saddened by the family's loss and understand their grief. Given that this restaurant is neither owned nor operated by Disney, we are merely defending ourselves against the plaintiff's attorney's attempt to include us in their lawsuit against the restaurant. They're fundamentally going, we don't know those guys. They just use our land. We're kind of just like a landlord. We are not associated with those scoundrels over there at all. No, not us. Nope. You're coming after the wrong guy, bub. Go after them. Not our fault. And if you do want to go after us, you can't really, because your Disney Plus free trial from 2019. Did you forget about that? Eek, sorry. Now, the lawyer representing the family called it absurd and preposterous, saying that the case is based on the incredible argument that any person who signs up for an account, even free trials that are not extended beyond the trial period, will have forever waived the right to a jury trial, which is pure insanity. And they also argue that Mr. Piccolo, the husband, agreed to the terms of use for himself, but he's now acting on behalf of his late wife, who never agreed to the terms, which I think is a really strong point. I think the lawyer is right here. His wife never signed up for the Disney Plus trial, thus she shouldn't be subjected to the fucking shackle and chains that apparently every Disney Plus subscriber is now succumbed to. The lawyer then goes on to say, the notion that terms agreed to by a consumer when creating a Disney Plus free trial account would forever bar that consumer's right to a jury trial in any dispute with any Disney affiliate or subsidiary is so outrageously unreasonable and unfair as to shock the judicial conscience. It really is exceptionally evil, and from what I've read here, it's not exclusive to Disney. So apparently there was even a time where they were going to get close to protecting consumers from this kind of shit with like these arbitration clauses that get snuck into contracts that you sign up for unknowingly, because it is unreasonable to expect anyone to read all 65 pages of every terms and condition for every service you sign up for. There's no human being on the planet that has the chutzpah to sit through and read all of that. But apparently that ruling that was going to protect consumers got fucked in Congress. So it's just, corporations really do operate on a different level than everything and everyone else. So no matter how much they are pushed to stop this shady shit, they can always pay their way out of it so it never actually sees the light of day and they can continue to do the scummiest things. Another quote here is, most of the companies in the U.S. require mandatory arbitration and allows them to, by and large, cut off much relief. Companies love it, but individuals who are harmed by these corporations really don't have any access to any form that would give them relief, as that's a real problem. It just limits consumers' options. It protects companies by fucking consumers in the face. The Supreme Court's view is, if you don't like it, don't sign it. Which is a super easy position to have for all the troglodytes in Supreme Court, because they're so ancient and archaic that these geriatric fossils don't sign up for anything or any service because they don't even know what a goddamn computer is. They're still learning about that mystical, magical thing called the cyberspace and the internet. So they don't even know what the fuck this is. All they need to know is what the corporations tell them they need to know. But every normal person in the world all has different services that they have to sign up for. I'm not talking about just like entertainment services. Like, no one needs to have like a Netflix account or anything, or Epic Games account or something. But even just like, I remember 10 years ago when I was in my apartment, there was an online sign-up I had to do that had pages upon pages upon pages of terms and conditions. And I didn't read through all of them. I feel like most people don't read through all of them. Banking online, all types of services that are literally required for most normal people all have tons and tons of terms and conditions, and they are probably sneaking in some truly heinous shit. And this story right here helps shine a light on some of it and how unreasonable it is. And the Supreme Court saying, if you don't like it, don't sign up for it, is just, that's not realistic. It's just not at all. But yeah, anyway, this shit is super horrible. Disney super sucks. That's about it. See ya. I find it disgusting that more people aren't aware of this lawsuit that's going on right now, so I'm going to do you all a favor and take you by the hand and show you the light. You know, I'm no hero, okay? But please pat me on the back for the bravery anyway. Right now, there is a $3 billion lawsuit going on that names some of the biggest celebrities in the world. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Michael Jordan, and even Chris Benoit. Chris Benoit, many of you probably raised an eyebrow to because he's been dead for well over 10 years now, and he has just been named in a $3 billion lawsuit for conspiracy to kidnap a woman and her children. I'm sure all of you are familiar with the story of Chris Benoit. He was a damn near household name in the wrestling scene, and he ended up killing his family and killing himself. It's a horrific, tragic story, and he's been dead for a long time now. He has been decaying in the ground for a while. And the children here that are talked about in the lawsuit, from everything I've read, were not alive when Chris Benoit still inhabited this corporeal dimension. Which would mean that post-mortem, from beyond the grave, Chris Benoit's spirit would have had to been conspiring with this massive Illuminati network here to commit this kidnapping crime. Which is a bold claim. This is a lawsuit that comes from a former wrestler named Raka Khan, who alleges that there was this massive conspiracy to kidnap her and her children, and she is seeking $3 billion and named not only a ton of celebrities like individuals and pretty much every wrestler that has ever breathed over the last 100 years. I wouldn't be surprised to find Andre the Giant buried somewhere in the list of culprits. But she is also naming entire companies like Home Depot. I shit you not. Home Depot is listed as part of this conspiracy to kidnap her and her children. It is outrageous. Now, of course, I don't want to rule out the possibility that Home Depot has a seat at the New World Order, and the first order of business was to kidnap her and her children, but with the amount of people and companies listed here, it seems unrealistic. Because, like I said, it wasn't just Home Depot either. Bank of America was listed, the FBI, the entire FBI. There's all these companies apparently had skin in the game, and they're all listed now in this $3 billion lawsuit. Honestly, by the end of reading this list, I was half expecting to see my favorite breakfast restaurant listed here, which is just a mom and pop local restaurant. And I thought, you know what, everyone's guilty out here. But yeah, it's pretty outrageous, and I've done a bit of research now on Raka Khan, and she's unfortunately had a lot of bad things happen to her post-wrestling career, as well as even during her wrestling career. For example, she dated Kurt Angle for a while, and there was 2009 incident where like abuse was alleged, but then it was later kind of dropped. But it was very messy, very muddy and fishy. But overall, a lot has happened to her throughout her life. And in 2019, she even landed herself on the most wanted list for El Paso. It's a really wild web, and the lawsuit is pretty concerning, honestly. I went over it all on stream, so I'll just play those clips for you to give you a deeper insight into all of it. Yeah, I'll look up the Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson lawsuit. Here. Someone mentioned that earlier, I forgot to look it up. It was apparently named in a multi-billion-dollar lawsuit from a former WWE wrestler. Holy shit, it's a kidnapping lawsuit. Oh, that's right, live action Moana. Maybe he's being sued because of how horrible that fucking idea is. They're kidnapping the audience's patience. The FBI is named in the lawsuit. Wow, that's awfully ambitious. Her complaint, most of which is made up of those being sued, alleges that those named worked together in a conspiracy to kidnap her and her children. Some other names in the lawsuit are the State of Texas, the El Paso Child Protective Services, the Las Cruces, New Mexico Police Department, the NYPD, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, New York ACS, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Shirley Police Department, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Suffolk County, New York, the Bank of America, Home Depot, and even the who are her children? What? Why would all of these people work together to kidnap her children? Are they like Super Saiyans? Fuck, Jesus Christ. Home Depot of all things. How did they get tossed into the mega mix? The kidnapping aisle? What happened? Apparently it's proceeded in court. That's what it said at the start. It's making waves in court. Or, making progress in court. Still has a bench warrant out for her after not appearing at a criminal trial in December 2022 in Texas, where she was to face charges of interference with child custody and aggravated kidnapping facilitate. Aggravated kidnapping facilitate. Why does that sound so grammatically incorrect? She paid the court fees, which allowed the case to move forward, but no one's been served yet. And she is currently on their wanted list. And back in 2019 was placed as the most wanted fugitive list for child custody charges by El Paso. So this sounds like very serious mental illness here. What the fuck? Oh my god, Michael Jordan's named in it too. How deep does the web go? Or how deep does the rabbit hole go? if I'm reading this right, The Rock, The Miz, Chris Benoit, Mick Foley, and others conspired to kidnap Raka Khan and her children. Chris Benoit has been dead for fucking 2 decades almost. So the ghost of Chris Benoit conspired to steal her and her children? When did she allege that this happened, this conspiracy? This is so wacky. Holy fuck. Home Depot trying to be the next Wayfair. Yeah, I guess so. This is the next storyline for the WWE. Oh man, fuck, if only the MWL could get in on this action. We'd use this lawsuit for one of our storylines in a heartbeat. This would be huge for us. But I mean, yeah, this is fucking serious delusion. Especially because she's paying a ton of money for this, clearly. She paid all of the fees in order to push this through the court system, apparently. That's a big chunk of change right down the shitter. Oh, wait, you're right. Wait, Billy Corgan is also named in here. Did she just start naming everyone in the wrestling industry from, like, all promos everywhere? Am I in here? Is the MWL named in this? Fucking Dow Jones listed on this, lawsuit? I can't find the lawsuit, but we got some super sleuths on Twitter that were immediately able to point out some, some very shady business of this lawsuit, which is shocking. I mean, everything here seems watertight and sane, but they noticed that her child, that I assume she is referring to a potential kidnapping victim of this massive Illuminati conspiracy kidnapping case, was 4 years old in 2019. So that would mean Chris Benoit had already been dead and buried and literally a fucking skeleton in a coffin at this point. So when she was placed on the most wanted fugitives list, her child was 4, and that was in 2019. So Chris Benoit, he must have been like haunting the family, plotting this one. You're forgetting about potential time traveling shenanigans. I didn't even stop to consider time dilation. You're not wrong. How much is she asking for in damages? $3 billion. Yeah, you must have missed the most important part. Thanks to resub, Nigel. You think they'll settle? Brother, if a single person listed in this lawsuit even gives this a moment of thought, I would be shocked. No, they're not going to settle for anything. Though, if they want to, they can do it in the squared circle of the Moist Wrestling League. We'll have ourselves our first lawsuit match. We should start suing people like this as a form of networking. Not wrong, Aaron. This actually might be the play. How's Michael Jordan involved if it's all wrestlers? Because it's not all wrestlers. Brother, the FBI and Home Depot are listed here, and Bank of America. It's just she also listed every wrestler ever as well. Legal Eagle on YouTube says she has a legit lawsuit. I already know, I'm just being lied to. Legal Eagle did not just cover this lawsuit. There is a 0% chance. But I'll look it up anyway. I don't know why I'm doing this. Hey! Shocking. Nothing from Legal Eagle here. What the fuck did I just read here? Home Depot was an amazing street fight wrestler. His Fampus top rope 2x4 smash. What the fuck? I feel like I know what you were going for, but everything went wrong in the sentence and made it much better. I don't know what a Fampus is, but fuck yeah. Won't this mess up The Rock's work with Disney? No, man. I don't think it will. I mean, hey, I'd actually love to be wrong about that. A live-action Moana is criminal. The movie's not even 10 years old. So if it does impede on that, then this lawsuit was worth it. But there's a 0% chance.